Hi, and welcome to the Quiet Operator podcast. Today, I'm joined by Kheng, who heads up the commercial lending division of the finance stand. Kheng, lovely to have you here.
Hi, Nathan. Lovely to be here.
So, Kheng, in terms of commercial lending, if you can just walk me through what it is that the finance stand actually does.
So the finance stand is a mortgage broking firm. We have residential brokers, and we have myself who heads up the commercial lending division. My passion, personally, is to help small businesses, whether it's through cash flow, through acquisitions, just to help them get through, particularly during COVID, the hard times. Now we're looking at in the market with a lot of ATO debts and navigating through that with them.
So, you're saying that even though COVID's passed a few years, you're still getting the hangover there that's existing with businesses?
Definitely, definitely. And I always joke that if a business doesn't have an ATO debt, there's no commercial lending. It's not a commercial deal unless there's an ATO debt. So, but no, I find that a lot of operators, mums and dad operators, are passionate about what they do. Bookkeeping is not one of the things that they understand. BASs quarterly, annually, and so they're very good at what they do. And cash flow can actually shut down their business.
Mm.
So I try to help as many businesses as possible to stay open because they are serving a community and helping the community have this service available.
Mm.
So it's very important, I think, that people understand that a good business doesn't mean that they uh, have clear cash flow to help them through.
Sure. And I mean, that can be particularly prevalent where it can be a cyclical business, but it can also be where they're relying on suppliers that might be paying them after 1, 2, or 3 months of the work being completed. But they've got wages, they've got office costs, and petrol, all of the other ancillary costs.
That's correct. That's definitely correct. Yeah. So managing their cash flow and having cash flow can give you bulk purchases as well and discounts on, the goods that you need to purchase in order to make that sort of money down the track.
Mm. Now, this sounds like a pretty niche part of the finance lending space. Majority of mortgage brokers will do, like you mentioned, your business also does, but they'll usually specialize in residential mortgages. They might do a little bit of commercial or some SMSF as well. How did you get into being specialized in that field? Is that from what you've done previously in the workforce?
That's correct. Yeah. So I used to be a business banker
Mm.
at a couple of the majors, and helping businesses. You can see the value it adds to the community. Coming out, opening my mortgage broking firm, started off with a little bit of residential, and then now niching back into commercial. I think that there's a passion that I have to help people and make sure that their businesses are still open for the community. So
Mm.
yes, that's my background and that's my passion more so than I didn't fall into it. Um, I am so passionate about it, and I think there's not as many women in the commercial space as there are men. So I'm extremely passionate about supporting women in this space as well.
Mhm.
I am also the ambassador for the Women's Commercial Finance Forum and encouraging a lot of women in that forum to give it a go, write commercial, help the community, whilst you're helping a lot of self-employed clients already in the residential space. It's not hard just to go, hey, how's business going?
Sure. I mean, that's very interesting. For people that aren't familiar with what that organization is, do you mind to just expand a bit more?
Um, Sorry, can you ask the question again?
Sure. So from the actual mentoring that you do that you just mentioned there, is that an organization that solely just mentors, or is there a division that they have mentoring as well?
Yeah, it's definitely a forum that's backed by the FBAA.
Mhm.
We put on a lot of events, training events, in-person events. We also have a Facebook group where we chat and talk about deals that are available on that people need help with. We're launching shortly. It's extremely exciting. An educational program. For credit writing with commercial as well.
Mhm.
So watch that space. I also sit on the SFG Empower Her committee, which we also put on a lot of events where we you know, talk more about not only women in this industry, their businesses, their pain points, and just supporting them through that way. So, yeah, I'm very, very passionate with both of these committees that I sit on, and there's a lot of support out there for women. So I'm hoping that more women can watch this and just join the committees or join the forum.
Wow. And because it's interesting, I remember when I started out in the industry initially, it was probably about 20 years ago, and it felt like it was a ratio of about 9 to 1 men to women in the industry. There was women that worked sometime in support teams, but there weren't that many female brokers. And then looking forward in the last decade, it started to creep up, but it seems like it's pretty far from 50-50 still.
That's correct. I think there's a lot of challenges, and I think the more we talk about the challenges and share them, it's women need to understand that the pathway into this industry is very different to men. You
Mhm.
still can be very successful, depending on what success looks like to you, but you can have longevity in this industry because it is a very flexible industry
Mhm.
to be in.
Wonderful. Now, talking about successful female entrepreneurs, yourself being one of them. So, how have you set up your business now? I understand you've got some onshore staff, some offshore staff, and you've even got another division that you opened up that covers insurance as well.
So, not many people know that this is probably the fourth iteration of my business. A lot of women, maybe, or even men, when they start up their business, they give up after the first, second, third iteration. Who knows? I've been in partnerships. I've been a solo broker. I've been a broker with one staff. I've been broker with 8 staff.
Mhm.
So at the moment, my business follows my lifestyle and my lifestyle choices. So I've got 2 kids under 3.
Mhm.
So for the last 3 years, the business looks completely different to where it is now. So where my business is now, we've got a residential division, we've got a commercial division, head by myself, and we've got an business insurance arm of the business, run by two people there as well. So, um, our business works around our kids, my kids, and school pickups, drop offs, and everything else. And my clients know the hours that I work and where they can get me. So, if you set up your business, you can set it up for success as long as you know what success looks like to you.
Mhm. And so you mentioned that so it's gone through the iterations to get there. So do you feel that where you are now is, I guess, the ideal spot, and it took a couple of trials to be able to do that?
Most definitely. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Get up, dust yourself off, and go again. This industry is so fulfilling. It
Mm.
is. It's so rewarding, and it's so flexible for women as well. Um, I've I've several times I think I've given up, but the biggest hurdle I think in this industry is loneliness, and not speaking to others. I think the day that I decided to go to every single PD day, every single lenders event, um, meeting as many peers as possible. My biggest supporters in this industry at many times where I thought I would give up is when my peers stepped in and helped me through. So it is vital and important to one, um, be present in the industry. Two, select an aggregator that supports your business.
Mhm.
And three, just have, you know, your support network around you, whether it's BDMs, whether it's brokers, whether it's a forum like the Women's Commercial Finance Forum. There's a lot of help out there to make you stay in the industry.
Mhm. And I mean, speaking not just about the financial services industry which you're in, but the great thing is you working with so many small businesses, you get an insight into what businesses do right, what businesses do wrong. Is there any sort of common thing that you see in terms of from a funding perspective where someone maybe should have applied for finance earlier and they leave it till the last minute? Or is there anything that you see on a regular basis that you go, that's an easy solve or relatively easy solve for a business?
It's when they outgrow their accountant, when they like, especially mums and dads, when they have their, they went from, say, a PAYG, they've started opening a business, they're a little milk bar now, they serve a community, they, ha have their incomes, revenues taken in, and then they realize they've got a massive tax debt and they don't know how they've managed it.
Hmm.
All of a sudden, they've gone from a certain tier to the next tier of income and they can't grow. They've brought on staff. I find that when they change from a personal tax accountant to a business tax accountant, that's where a lot of the changes happen. And it happens hopefully quicker for them so that can understand. So yeah, I think the knowledge gap is to actually have the right support for your type of business. If you're choosing to grow, people generally just go, oh, I'm growing. There's a lot of business here. I'm going to bring on some staff, and that's where they fall short, where they put all their cash flow into wages and not understanding that growth costs a little bit and you go back a little bit before you move forward. So I think a lot of the mistakes is that when people grow too quickly, they don't know what that looks like. And then they realize that they have to leverage. And at that point in time, depending on how they've managed their bookkeeping, um, we have to probably clean that up and educate them first.
So is that where you'd look at getting perhaps maybe some cash flow, a line of credit from bank, etc., so they've got money to cover these wages?
Yeah, so you got to understand their strategy. If they're continuing to grow, um, we can patch up what they're currently got. But if they're going to bring on more staff, it's going to grow even more projections and everything else. You've got to get a really good accountant to help you through that,
Mm.
and then understanding working alongside them to balance the leverage to get them to the next level of their business. Some operators are happy just being small operators. They make their way through, and just need to clear out maybe the ATO debt or just a small bit of relief during a cash flow relief during that period of time, or they might want to buy a fridge or equipment or whatever it is. But businesses that grow and outgrow their current position tend to seek assistance when it's slightly a little bit too late. So, yeah, knowing what you want to do early and engaging a finance broker is helpful.
So, given that you've got the clients that have had the growth, is that one of the advantages that you have is that you're able to start, say, as opposed to a standard broker, you're actually able to start predicting what the future needs are because you're already used to looking in a lot more detail to the actual to the markers. Like, what would be some of the markers? I guess you're saying sort of someone all of a sudden finds that they're increasing staff, well, then their demand is going up, their sales are going up. So that would be a marker that you may have a cash flow related issue coming up at some point.
Well, the amazing thing is, I get a lot of my clients to give me read only access to their Zero.
Okay.
And Zero has so many amazing features. This is not a plug for Zero, by the way. There are many
There's no
accounting
referral code
softwares
at the
out
bottom
there.
of the screen.
Um, but they actually, even now, even some of the major banks have cash flow projections in their banking app. Um, it's something that I don't even need to have a look at. The lenders, if you're saying banking with a major, you put all your business income through there. They can project you when your cash flow is going to be low. They actually tell you. You can bring that sort of information to a finance broker and say, "Hey, look, this cash flow seems to be a bit low. My invoicing is not going to come in for another 30 days after this low point. What is the gap here?" You can either engage your accountant to do a projection for you, or you can just trust the data, read it, understand it, and then just get some funding in the gaps that you need.
It sounds like quite a specialized lead that would be coming through to you. So are you getting yours from web based or from marketing, or are these coming through from referral based networks?
Small business accountants, they have such great needs with their in their books for cash flow lending for their particularly during COVID and, all the cash flow boost. And now we've got ATO debts. And as I said, there's the up and coming mums and dads or small businesses that are now outgrowing their current position and realizing that they have to clear the ATO debt first, because of the superannuation changes, wages, and then pull back to pay for all those before they can expand again if they wanted to,
Mhm.
or just make sure that what they've got is sustainable. So most definitely, a lot of my referrers are looking through their books to see if there's anything that is standing out for them. But mostly it's ATO debt during. It's still the hangover from COVID.
Because they've just been pushing it up, and I assume that the ATO was probably quite forgiving in the 22-23 financial year, but less forgiving as we hit the
That is
25-26
correct.
financial year?
That's correct. So, it's not about growing your business anymore. It's about sustaining what you've got, and making sure that you can manage what you've got, in order to maybe grow a little bit later down the track. But yeah, always reviewing that, and having a very good bookkeeper and accountant, um, can get you that. But yes, most of my clients either are a word of mouth or from my accountants.
Wow. It's interesting just to go back on that for a second, because most people would think if they're setting up a business that all the business has to do is if they produce widget X at dollars, then as long as it's more dollars that they're getting back in, that they're going to be a profitable business. But really what you're saying is, yeah, that's true to an extent, but you've still got to be able to have the cash flow. You're still going to need to be able to handle the fact that you may not get paid for those widgets that you sell or produce on that actual day.
That's correct. Timing, the cost of goods, and as I said, if you can pay it up front in bulk and then sell it later for like a higher margin because you bought in bulk, um, then yeah, you need some funding.
Okay, so you're saying for someone that might be in the wholesale or even retail based that you could get a, a bundle of cash for them. Hopefully not in a suitcase, but you get a bundle of cash for them that allows them to buy more of the product, which brings down their per unit cost. And as long as they can sustain that holding period, that actually would mean that their profit would go up.
Yeah, but they also have to manage their debtors and creditors, right, as
Mhm.
well. And there's also lending across those books as well. So depending what sort of business that you provide, as I said, I'm here to help a community, and sustain the service that they provide. Um, as long as that I have an understanding of where they're going to and what their model looks like, yeah, we definitely can model that out with a bundle of cash, Nathan.
Now, hey, sign me up. Sounds terrific. And so the other area of your work is that you also specialize, I understand, in people when they're looking to purchase a business, whether it be an expansion or whether it be an employee who's making that merge across to being a business owner. So that's quite a specialized form of lending. Typical residential lending, you're using a house, you're pulling out equity. I understand with that it's quite a bit more complicated.
Yeah, so a lot of people come to me after they've seen a business broker, saying, "Hey, what does this business looks like? Can you bet it for me?" So yeah, we do look at that, and we look at it through the lens of leverage, whether you could leverage for it. I mean, they wouldn't need to come to me if they could just buy it out, the business out in cash. But yeah, a lot of people have now moved from the traditional. PIYG, wanting to try something new with buying a business. A lot of the times they're not startup businesses, they're existing business. So we review historical data for them and say, hey, using this historical data and what your plans are and projections, we potentially could leverage to buy this business with you
Mm.
or for
And
you.
that sounds like it's going just beyond looking at the profit and loss of the actual company itself.
Yeah, it's the strategy because you're not going to buy a business and hoping that it's just going to make the same amount of money or whatever. You're going to improve it. You're buying a business to give your lifestyle the flexibility that you're after as well. So buying a particular business that's very very hands on, is that what business that you're after? It's more than financials, right? As well,
Mhm.
we can tell you whether it leverages well, but at the same time, does it suit your lifestyle of what you're buying as well? Because a lot of people look at businesses and franchises. We do a lot of franchise lending as well in our space,
Mhm.
and seeing whether that franchise suits them.
So do you often find that after that conversation, the initial interest in it, that it may have looked good on the numbers point of view, but then people go away and they actually say, "Hey, thanks, Ken, that's not for us."
Yeah. So there was one time like there was a restaurant that was up for sale, but the restaurant chain was part of a bigger chain where they would have got bulk purchase in the supplies. And then when they came in, those numbers don't exist like that anymore, right? Those supplies probably won't sell for you to you at that wholesale price. So you got to look at that sort of stuff as well and your competition in the area. So it's not just the numbers. The numbers can speak and say, yeah, you can borrow money, but you got to understand the whole industry and the game that you're wanting to enter into.
Hmm. So it sounds like you really, with your analysis, this is just going beyond looking at a couple of bits of paper, but it's projecting it out. How do you do that? Do you do that using maybe an Excel spreadsheet and combine it in with the zero and sit down? And is it quite time intensive?
It's very time intensive because, you do one more wrong mistake, it's more, the impact of the person's well-being really, as well as, their business and their future income for them and their family. So, talking them through it and having a chat about it and, analyzing it, making sure that it makes sense, as long as it makes sense, and it makes money. We're not gonna buy a business that makes sense but doesn't make money. That's very uncommon, but at the same time, it has to make sense to them.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting how many businesses that are for sale, and they'll have an active director in that business, and he might be paying or she might be paying themselves a wage of $120,000, and they assume that then it's worth 3 or 4 times as a multiple on the wage that they're paying. But I always look at that and go, no, it's not, because that's the active income. If you weren't there, you'd be able to earn that elsewhere. Have you ever seen sort of mismatched potential sale prices where someone's come and they've already semi-negotiated to purchase a business, and you go, hang on, this doesn't stack up at all?
Yeah, most definitely. And not only is my analysis, because I'm from a banking background, um, the if the if it, we also have to fit into the credit criteria of the lenders as well. On top of that, so if you're paying multiples over for a business, the bank's not going to support a leverage position unless you want to put in your own risk and your own cash as well, which often you have to. Um, you find that you know what you may be overpaying. You may
Hmm.
be, and then that's a good way of also a good indicator to them that maybe you are overpaying. Depending on how passionate they are, they might still steam ahead. But as long as it makes sense.
Hmm. And so, just going back to what you touched on earlier, having two young kids, and running the business as well, and you've said you've built this business around your lifestyle. So, what does a typical week is there a typical week with two young kids? Or
Oh, it's not a typical week. My 1-year-old is starting to talk and explore new things. So if I'm not paying attention, she's already on the kitchen bench top, turning on the stove. So best I pay attention. But no, me and my partner, we work around our children, and our businesses are working around them as well. So um, typical week is that the school drop-offs in the morning, and we try to finish by 4:35 o'clock so that the kids are home, fed, and in bed. Um, it's been hard because it's forever changing because they're so little, but eventually I think it will slowly get to a level where it's a little bit more normal. But anything goes at any given time in this business. It is so exciting.
and so you've got your support team as well within your business. So, do they handle much of the deal flow for you once you've done that initial analysis?
Um, From the commercial lending side, no, it's my expertise.
Mhm.
But from the residential division, We have staff that help out with a lot of the administrative work. And we do have a power broker who helps with the servicing, or my credit manager in that division. But yeah, mostly it's hands on when it comes to small businesses, because not all small businesses are the same.
Mm,
Not like your residential purchases. Unfortunately, we have to look a little bit further outside of the numbers to make sure it makes sense for them and their family.
sure.
Um, but yes, I do have a power broker to assist me with my commercial lending division, and then we've got uh, an assistant and a loan processor for the residential division.
Gotcha. So just to touch on the residential, because that sounds like you're as close as possible to hands off that you've got. So how were you able to build out a team that was able to support that? Is that just from the multiple iterations of the business, or is this a relatively new team that you built?
It's a relatively new team, but because I've built teams before, failed, had children, came back, um, was going to do a a multitude of different things. But now I think that the old school mentality of, back in the days when I was a banker, you had an associate,
Mhm.
and that associate assisted you with almost everything. Um, I think that's our model at the moment. So our insurance broker has an assistant. Um, you can label them a processor if you like, or a power broker, whatever they need to be. Our resi has an assistant, and I myself have the assistant. So each division has their own associate,
Mhm.
and that's how I've modeled it out through the old school way of banking.
Sure. And then, so were you able to take a lot of the initial skills that you had from your banking days and put them into the process, or have you built out new processes for your business as you've gone along?
I've I follow a lot of the. I've gone back to the old school processing model, and making sure that that automation can play a part
Mhm.
in a lot of things that we do. As the current lending platforms are requiring a lot of attention to details with settlements, with conveyances, with accountants, with whatever they need. Um, you can automate a lot of the simpler stuff whereby keeping the clients up to date and telling them, where submitted it to the lender. That sort of stuff takes out from the team.
Mm.
A lot of AI these days can, put a lot of notes into the system for us, generate a lot of data where we need it to.
Mhm.
So having a good aggregator and a CRM system is vital and important in this space.
Mm. So it's about getting the right tools that are in place that allow you to have that type of growth.
So you can concentrate more on just your clients and talking to them.
So do you find that the majority of your clients, they prefer face to face, or is it video, or combination of both?
They just prefer communication, regardless, one way or the other. They would take pigeon if they had to. No, we love to talk to our clients. There's only so many hours in a day, and if it's taken up by administration, I
Mhm.
feel like your service is deteriorated. So, no, a lot of my clients would be happy just to speak to us video, whichever way it suits them, really. But yeah, just communication.
Amazing. And you mentioned earlier about the work that you're doing in mentoring women in the industry as well. And so, is that one thing I didn't clarify? Is that something that you're paid to do? Is that volunteer? Where is that sort of coming from?
It's a labor of love. I volunteer because I'm so passionate. Many times I've almost left the industry thinking that, that I could probably do something better. But you know what? We're so good for this industry. Our passion, our drive, our due care. I do what I do because I want to help families and people serve a community.
Mhm.
So I'm very fortunate that I had quite a few errors, quite a few iterations, and I'm still here. But the passion doesn't die down. So as much as um, there's not as many women currently in our space. Um, I would hope that they keep going, trying. Women have children, they exit the industry, hopefully they come back, and visualize what the industry looks like for them in future. Because I've got 2 daughters. I wanna pave the way for them to know that, when they're ready, that this is an industry of choice for women.
Mm. Which even just going back to what you're talking about, the iterations, what's really interesting is a lot of people think that they'll have a preconceived notion of how their business needs to run and they look at everything as an all or nothing approach. But what's really interesting about what you're talking about is you've gone beyond that. So you've gone, no, it's not about I need to follow that set plan because that was the plan 10 years ago. It's I've got now 2
Mhm.
kids. I now need to change my hours around. So you've adapted as you've gone through and you've allowed the business to support your lifestyle rather than have to adjust your lifestyle for the business, it sounds like.
Yeah, you gotta visualize that, what it looks like, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I wanna be a successful mortgage broking firm. I wanna write X amount of volumes. I need to do that." But there's no point when you're burnt out. I mean, when I started 9 years ago, I was single, and 2 years later, COVID hit. Like, my business is very, very different to when it first started. And after COVID, I brought my first onshore staff,
Mhm.
and I've ever since always have had onshore staff. And learning HR is very hard for a mortgage broker.
Sure. Because well, I mean, mortgage brokers are usually good at writing loans. That's where they start as an
Yeah,
actual business.
reviewing contracts and sending it out and minimum wage and superannuation changes and, BAS, GST and bookkeeping and understanding all of that is tough. Wearing a lot of hats is tough, but I'm blessed enough to have had 4 years under my belt before I started, when I gave birth to my first child. And then I was lucky enough to survive, that period of time. Not only survive, but we opened up an insurance broking firm. And then since then, it's now because we've done all these mistakes and we've learnt all these lessons that we were able to do things quicker this time around.
Hmm. So you've actually built on it. So you're not having to redo the path, rewalk the path. And
Yeah, and
it,
you know what it should look like now, what you want, right? Because I've had 4 aggregation changes, um, quite a few CRM changes.
so for those that
So
aren't familiar, when you talk about aggregation changes, I liken it to it's a lot more difficult than moving house. You're
that's
you're effectively
correct.
taking your entire database, all of the deals that you've got. You might have deals that are halfway through the pipeline, and now you're now going to be housed somewhere else. And I'm not sure if it was deliberate, but it certainly is not an easy process. The breakup, it's I don't know. You've done it 3 or 4 times now. Did it get easier the last time?
It certainly did, because you know what you're looking out for this time
Yeah.
around. You know what you need to do to get to the right model for your business. It's a necessity. So moving the last time, I'm like, I don't want to ever move. Like every time you move, you're like, I never want to move again.
Sure.
Because it is hard work. It's like moving houses. Well, I moved houses when I was 36 weeks pregnant. That was very, very hard. So moving aggregation, similar. But you have to get to where the right support and CRM system is for you and your business and what you want to model out.
Mm.
If it's not working for you at that point in time, because of your lifestyle change, you just got to bite the bullet and move. You got to do it.
Because it's you got to go through a little bit of pain, so you've got the long term overarching goal to get the
Yeah.
growth.
And finding the right fit for you is once you've found it and you're there, or it makes sense. Your business runs a lot smoother. You get to sleep at night knowing
Mhm.
that that's in the background. Um, but that's for everything, by the way. It's not
So
just
who's your
for your
aggregator
staff.
now? It sounds like they're suiting you well. Feel free to call them out.
Well, my aggregator is SFG, Specialist Finance Group. They're massive support. They've taken me through both my pregnancy and children.
Uh-huh.
So they've been a huge support for my business. People think that my business is, oh, she's been in the industry for long enough. She's lucky enough to But no, it's because of my aggregator that I was able to manage my family, um, get things that are automated, be looked after, and supported. And that's why because there's such a huge support to me, I sit on their committee for SFG Empower Her to help other women who may think, oh, I can't have children because it's going to deteriorate my business. Um, I've had two, and my business is better than ever, really. I'm in a very fortunate position.
No, I mean, it's pretty amazing what you did, Kang, in terms of having the kids at latter or middle part of the career, as opposed to at the start, and being able to build a business with kids, as young as one. Actually, in terms of some of you must have seen some very strange transactions across all of the ones. What's sort of one or two that come to mind as quite odd transactions or a little out of the box that you've seen?
Oh, I don't know if it's safe to say on this platform, Nathan. There's platforms, there's businesses I think you know, the people talk about the 5 C's of credit, and you're like, the most important C is common sense.
Mhm.
You look at a transaction, you go, "Does this make sense?" Look, I probably not safe to say it on, this platform, but, um, as I said, every transaction has to make sense.
Mhm.
Has to make sense. Anyway, I've had a transaction come through and they're like, "Okay, we need some money." We turn over $500,000 a month in takings,
Wow.
yet no one was able to lend you money. So, there are so many strange transactions that you're like, strange businesses. You're like, oh, you've been going on for a very long time without any leverage. So you question how they've sustained where they are, but now they need more funding. I mean, you're turning over 500,000 already as it is. If you're going to turn over $1 million, what does that look like to you? Doesn't make sense.
Mm.
So yeah, there it is. I can't tell you the whole background of it, but yeah, it's a strange one.
Sure. I'm getting a hint of what you're probably don't want to expand on that one at all.
No, but I've had a transaction recently where, we've had a, an acquisition of a cemetery. That's a very interesting one.
Mhm.
And again, it serves the community. It serves the state. Where there is running out of space for burials. So it is a strange transaction, but it is serving a community and it makes sense.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, it's providing a service that's needed,
Yep.
which is terrific. Um, in terms of, I guess I know you've touched largely on female business owners, but even just for any type of business owner where they might feel that things are getting a little bit difficult and they're struggling, what's some advice that you would pass on to someone that's listening to this?
Get good sleep. You know what? I think that most people, when they, go have a shower or sit down, have a cup of tea, and all of a sudden all these ideas come, right? I think you need to talk to an expert, whether it's your accountant, whether it's a broker, whether it's another business partner, a mentor. It's so important to have a mentor. There's so many people doing business out there are doing such great things. If you could get one thing from them, that can help your business or you implement it. Listen to a lot of podcasts in the same industry as well. There's a lot of like little hints that you can grab and ideas you can grab from. But if you're burnt out and you're tired, you got to understand where you want to be and where you want to pivot. And have a lot of conversations with people, or listen to, as I said, listen to a lot of podcasts, or talk to a mentor at how you can shift that and what that shift looks like for you.
Mhm.
So if you're tired of, say you're you own a bakery, but you're doing a lot of, a HR work, or a lot of, you know, the receipts and at the end of the day. So I've had a pizza shop person come to me and he's amazing pizzas,
Uh-huh.
but the books were so bad. And I'm like, you just have to hire, like, what it looks like to hire a good bookkeeper. And then you might not be so burnt out after you've finished closing the shop that you can just, you know, um, go rest and have all those receipts off to the bookkeeper.
So this person was making the pizza during the day, working in front of a hot oven, where I'm assuming pretty exhausting work. And then at the end, they were still trying to do the bookkeeping because they didn't
The
want to pay
receipt,
someone $50 or $100.
I could not. I was looking at him. I'm like, what are you doing?
Mm,
No wonder you're not sleeping. So those sort of things. How can you do things better?
mhm,
How can you do processes better? How can you do your service with, less stress and still provide the same good service? By talking to people, talking to other business owners that do that they don't have to do the same thing as you, just another business owner that, you think and you aspire to or you think they do well, have a chat to them, reach out. A lot of business owners love to help.
mm. No, it's a good point you made because it sounds like you've got that largely. You've got the collaboration of other people in your industry, and the interaction that then you're able to take that through, which is
Yeah.
extremely important. King, really appreciate how generous you've been with your time today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.